Misty mysterious mass murder. In 1986, a mysterious misty fog enveloped a residential area near Lake Nyos in Cameroon that claimed the lives of nearly 2,000 people in one night. The story is still a headache for scientists until now. Who killed people and 10,000 mysterious deaths in the night? Horrible dinner. On the night of August 21, 1986, a huge cloud of fog appeared above Lake Nyos in a remote mountainous area northwest of Cameroon. The heavy white mist slowly slithered down the hills, flooded the valleys and villages around it and suffocated all the creatures along its way. As a result, 1,700 people were found mysteriously dead the next morning. There are no signs of injury or a clash of death on the body, recounts Father Anthony Bangsai, a missionary in the village of Sabam. Many people's bodies were burned and some survivors described that they had smelled sulfur gas that night. Father Anthony is one of the lucky survivors of the catastrophe that nearly wiped out the entire village. But Father Anthony, like any lucky escape, could not explain what had happened. On that day, news of the magnitude of the astonishing tragedy spread across the border of Cameroon, causing many to wonder. But this is not the first time this strange story has taken place. In 1984, 37 people living in Lake Manaun, 59 miles southeast of Lake Nyos, also died mysteriously. Like in the disaster in Lake Nyos, the victims died suddenly at night without any indication of a collision before they died. Initial assumptions. American expert George Kling was one of the first scientists to appear at the scene of the Nyos disaster after the event. He believes that there has been a volcanic eruption in the lake and that this may have been the cause of mysterious deaths. Kling, however, could not find traces of a hot lava stream, fountains or anything that shows that volcanic gas had been pumped into the air that night because of the sulfur gas that often accompanies it. With lava eruptions. Moreover, the temperature of the lake shows that they are actually cooler than normal and not heated after an eruption. From then on, Kling felt suspicious of his original theory and thought that perhaps the volcano was not responsible for the deaths of nearly 2,000 people. He began to divert the investigation and turned to a previously proposed hypothesis by Icelandic volcanologist Haraldur Sigurdsson. People who have been to Cameroon investigate a similar tragedy 2 years ago at Lake Manaun led to the same mysterious death of 37 people living there. Sigurdsson also probed to confirm whether the volcanic activity was the cause of the tragedy, and his tests showed no evidence that the volcanic eruption and hot gas. However, Sigurdsson found in the lake water contains large amounts of carbon dioxide, a natural gas that can kill people through the respiratory tract. Sigurdsson built up a hypothetical theory called lake overturn, claiming that the lake itself had released large amounts of toxic gas that had accumulated into the fog of murder. But, in fact, no such case has ever happened before, and in addition to the limitations of science at that time, Sigurdsson's theories became too numerous and unpredictable. Known from time to time. Therefore, his contemporaries ignored the hypothesis. When he proposed to check the CO2 levels of other lakes in the area were rejected by the government of Cameroon. And it was this mistake that led to the great damage that followed the lives of 2,000 people around Lake Nyos 2 years later. Portrait murder hidden face. Returning to Nyos the following times, George Kling further believes that Sigurdsson's theory is correct. He independently conducted water tests in Lake Nyos and found a large amount of CO2 in the deep waters of the lake. He argues that this natural gas has risen into a poisonous cloud and poisoned 3 lakeside villages. This cloud is visible to the naked eye, and they move very smoothly and without smells. These 3 elements combine to make it a perfect killer. This theory is well suited to the burns found on the bodies of the victims. It is caused by cold CO2 rather than volcanic hot air. Kling also cited U.S. Air Force research showing that exposure to large amounts of CO2 could lead to hallucinogens that would make them imagine that they smell sulfur. And it is this hypothesis that opens the way for modern scientists to expose the mysterious murderer's true face. Lake Nyos and Lake Manaun are all lakes on the crater. They are formed during the volcanic cooling and rainwater accumulation. In most of these lakes, the aquifers rotate from the bottom of the lake and back in a cycle. In the process, the gases from the underground into the bottom of the lake will eventually be released into the atmosphere. But Lake Nyos, Lake Manaon, and Lake Kivu in East Africa are not the same. The lake layers are not rotated on the bottom, and therefore, toxic gas when penetrating the bottom of the lake will be locked here. When a hurricane or a landslide occurs, a strong seismic will cause large amounts of surface water to sink to the bottom and simultaneously push water from the bottom to the top. The toxins from the dissolved state exit outward like bubbles emerging from a bottle of water that has been opened. According to calculations by scientists, during the Nyos Lake event in 1986, gas and water rose to about 80 meters high, moving at 45 miles per hour and spreading to villages 12 miles away. Estimated, the lake has released about 1 cubic kilometer of CO2 to fill up 10 football fields. At Lake Manaon, this gas cloud is smaller but enough to kill 37 people. The toxic gas in Lake Nyos and Manaon is now larger than before the 1986 eruption, which left many people in the area unconcerned. In early 2010, a group of American scientists began phasing out faucets for Nyos Lake by placing a polyethylene tube deep down on the bottom of the lake to make the carbon dioxide gas there bubbling up and releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. As a result, the pressure at the bottom of the lake will decrease, lowering the risk of erosion. Dr. James G. Smith, a geology expert at the International Development Agency, the main donor of the project, said, "This will be the first time we can prevent a natural disaster." In addition to installing a dredged gas pipeline, the scientists also installed an early warning system on each lake. When CO2 levels rise, sirens and blinking lights will be active, alerting people living in the area to escape. Even so, the danger is not over. According to scientists, Nyos Lake still contains enormous amounts of CO2 and a single pipeline is not enough to free them. It is necessary to have 4 or 5 similar pipes to eliminate the danger here as well as at Manaon Lake.